Today on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with Code Blue, CJ Graham. When did you first get introduced to professional wrestling?
I got introduced to professional wrestling, I want to say around the time of WrestleMania 20. That's my first recognition or recollection of any type of wrestling. I remember John Cena kicking off the show to start WrestleMania 20 against the Big Show in in my opinion, one of the classics in WrestleMania. And then obviously the triple threat main event. That was my first introduction to wrestling.
What brought you to that? Was that something that you just happened to see it on TV? Friends were watching it? Like, most people don't just turn on wrestling, they get introduced to it, right?
No, and keep in mind too, that was WrestleMania 20. WrestleMania 41 just passed. I'm 27. So you do the math. I was very young. So it was my father who actually introduced me to wrestling. My mother, she's not the biggest fan of wrestling, but no, it was definitely my dad and my brother. We all had a bond over wrestling. My brother's 3 years younger than me. So yeah, I'd say around WrestleMania 20 was my first time watching professional wrestling.
Well, if he's 3 years younger, I hope he didn't start at the same time too. But
It was pretty close.
Was it kind of like a hit the ground running kind of thing? Like as soon as you saw it, you were hooked and you just wanted more and more and more?
Yeah, I was hooked right away. And then I started, getting more knowledge into wrestling, like stipulation matches, even just regular matches though. But it was like some of the small things for me that really got me hooked was the fan interaction, stuff like entrances, pyro, like all that stuff. I was like, that would be cool to be performing like that one day.
Even at a young age, I'm sure there were some, but who were your favorites? Who were the ones that maybe not motivation or inspiration that early, but just really made you want to tune in every week?
I know it's very cliche, but especially my age, but John Cena was a big one growing up. Triple H, the game, he was unbelievable. Look at the physique on the guy. Like, how can you not like a superstar like that? Trying to think back, back in the Attitude Era, I guess that would be. Shawn Michaels was another big one. And then going into kind of the new generation now, I'd say guys that I look up to, bigger guy like me, Kevin Owens, he's definitely one. Yeah.
During this time of fandom, at any point during your growth, did you also get an opportunity to experience a live event, whether it was indie or even just like a traveling house show or anything like that?
I've been to a lot of live events, actually. If I'm going from recent, actually, no, we'll start back in the day. I think one of my first live events I ever went to was with my father and my brother. I was a little older. It's when Kurt Angle was in his TNA days, and we went there and we saw him defend. I think it was just a house show. It was in Oshawa, Ontario. So we drove down there, we watched the show, and then after the show, they said, we're going to do a meet and greet in the ring. So me, my brother, and my dad, we hopped in the ring, got a picture with Kurt Angle. He signed it. That was my first ever live event. I'm pretty sure, like, thinking back now. I've also been to a bunch of Monday Night Raws, SmackDowns, mostly in Toronto, and then indie shows. 365 Pro Wrestling, formerly known as Pure Wrestling Association. That was kind of when I started to get the itch. Obviously, I was too young when I first started going. So I think I first went to a show when I was 8, and that would have been back in like 2006. That was the first time I had watched a wrestling show in the Red Chevron Club in Guelph.
Okay, there's a history there for sure.
Big history.
Was it right from the start, or what point was it that it kind of crept into the back of your mind that, you know what, this is something that I might want to be a part of?
I think it was around probably the summer of 2022, and I started seeing all these younger guys getting in there, and I'm like, okay, so like I'm seeing all these guys do this. Why can't I? So that's kind of when I started to get the itch, was probably around late 2022.
What caused you to take that itch one step forward and actually start looking into wrestling, pursuing wrestling? Like, was there a trigger event where you were just like, all right, I'm at a point in my life where it's now or never kind of thing?
Well, another part of my history, like going back when I was a kid, I played baseball, competitive baseball, like high level. So I played AAA. Then I played on the Guelph Silver Creeks. I actually got called up for a couple games on the senior Guelph Royals. And then my shoulder and elbow started giving me some troubles. So I kind of put that on the back burner. So after my junior year, which I would have been 21, I wasn't really doing anything, still watching wrestling every day. But then I thought to myself, well, if I'm not playing baseball, like, why don't I give this a shot and see if this is for me? Because I feel like I'm charismatic enough. I feel like I could make a connection with the fans. So that's yeah, it was I think I was around I think I would have been 24 or 25 years old when I was like, you know what, let's give this a shot.
We'll definitely get back to the charismatic part because I do want to touch on that. But what did that process look like? Did you just find a school like online? Did you know somebody? Like, how did you actually get into like walk through a door of a wrestling school?
I talked to a bunch of wrestlers at the 365 events, and it kind of just one thing just snowballed to another. And then I got trained by a lot of great individuals, to name a few: Lenny Lilac, Eddie Osborne, Easy, Eric Kearney, there, and the list goes on and on and on. And then when I officially joined 365 in April of 2023, I was taken under the wing of so many wrestlers. Daddy Davis, like I said, Eric Kearney was another big one. John Atlas. I've got to wrestle so many individuals, and I'm truly blessed for that.
Can you recall maybe some of your thoughts, feelings going through the motions of those first few weeks or days of training? Like things that maybe came naturally to you, maybe some challenges that you weren't anticipating, or even just, hey, I can't believe this is what I'm doing, like thoughts or doubts you might have had.
Going into it, I because it's like every fan's like that's their biggest thought. What does the ring feel like? How do the ropes feel? What does it feel like to hit the turnbuckles? The moment I hit that mat for the first time, taking my first bump, I was kind of like, holy crap! Like this isn't a trampoline, because that's what me and my brother back in the day. That's what we did. It was trampoline wrestling, and I'm like, this is not a trampoline by any means. But it was a weird like, ouch, that hurts. But at the same time, it's like I like this, and evolving the bumps, back bump, face bump, doing all the rolls, actually being lifted up vertically for a suplex. Like it just things just kind of snowballed into one thing into another. Things that came, I want to say, kind of easily for me. The bumping for sure. I think I'm a very good bumper in the ring. Um, Running the ropes took me a bit to get used to, because we're in different size rings all the time. Like I've wrestled in a 15-foot ring, 16-foot ring, and I believe the biggest one was 18. So that took me a bit to get used to. But now, as time has gone by, it's gotten easier and easier, especially when you're putting move sequences and everything together. It definitely gets easier over time.
Okay. And how long were you training before you actually got to compete for the first time, whether that was in a singles match or a battle royale or, just kind of get your feet wet in the ring?
I want to say it was I think it was around 6 to 8 months. And then my first official match was on April 29th, 2023, for 365 Pro Wrestling, against Eddie Osborne. So the pressure was definitely on. Yeah, it didn't, some things were just clicking naturally to me. Lenny Lilac was a huge, huge part of my career so far. He's taught me pretty much everything I know in this business. He's one hell of a mentor. And he saw something in me that maybe some people didn't see, and he took that chance, and here we are today.
Okay, so this one might be a little bit hard to answer, but
Okay.
this is probably, like you said, something that every wrestling fan thinks about, dreams about, is getting into the match, feeling the ropes, feeling the mat. How did it feel that night, being in the ring, being in front of the audience instead of in the audience, and actually maybe it didn't even get to settle in until after, but realizing that I'm actually doing this.
It was very surreal. And to be honest with you, that night of April 29th, a lot of it was a blur. I had a ton of family there. I had a ton of friends, because this match was promoted for like over a month. So like this was a big deal. Numb almost. I felt very numb that night, like in the ring, because I kind of like looking out. I know it sounds very cliche, but like it was a big blur. Like it's like this is crazy. Like how's this happen? And then to get to the back and say thank you to Eddie Osborne, obviously, for giving me the opportunity, saying thank you to Lenny/Chico, because Chico was in there for a little bit as well. Yeah, it's definitely surreal after sitting in that chair in the audience for, I want to say, a good part of my life, like at least 3/4 of my life, watching my idols do this. And then for me to be able to get the opportunity and get in there, I still can't believe it to this day. It's very surreal.
So it sounded like you had a lot of people there that night that were in your corner, like you said, family, friends, people in the back. What sort of feedback did you get when you were finished and the match was all said and done?
The most feedback I got was probably, and it sounds the same from a lot of people, is like for a bigger guy you can move, and it surprises me because sometimes I'll watch a match back and I'll go, it doesn't look like, because I know my body, right? It doesn't look like you're moving that quick, but I guess from other people's perspective, it's they can see it very clear, and I sometimes can't make one thing from another, but yeah, and a lot of guys saying like, for the short time you've been doing this, like you're doing really well. And I got a lot of feedback from the guys in the back. I still do to this day. There's a lot of vets, especially 365, because 365's my home. 365 Pro Wrestling will always be my home. There's a lot of guys there who I've created a bond with. A lot of guys I can trust, and I take their words and I lock it in right here each and every single match.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to get a little bit too complimentary here for a minute because I did see you compete for the first time just last year, and it was at 365. And I find it interesting that you mentioned Kevin Owens because I had the same thought about you that you were so agile and graceful in the ring, but of somebody of a larger size. And not just that, the chants of the code blue, the music hitting and the building erupting. This is where that chemistry comes in. So before we dissect all that, I do just
Mhm.
want to ask, where is the origin of the Code Blue moniker and also the entrance theme? Because I love Your Love by the Outfield. And when I heard it the first time, I didn't know who was coming out, but I was already invested. And then, of course, I saw the in-ring work and I was even more impressed. But let's talk about the origin of Code Blue and Your Love.
Okay, Code Blue and Your Love. So Code Blue comes from, it was actually a baseball nickname given to me right here in Guelph. So obviously my real name is Cody Graham. Ring name is CJ Graham. So we were just practicing one day and my coach just out of nowhere, like, Cody. He's like, come on, Code Blue. And ever since, like, all my teammates would call me Code Blue. Then it led to school, everyone calling me Code Blue. So it was one of those things I just kind of transitioned into wrestling, and it's stuck ever since, which is crazy because like it was a piece of my childhood, and I brought it to wrestling, and I just try and it's hard to explain the character because it really is just a nickname. There's really no character behind it. Charismatic, energetic, that would be what I'd say for that. Now, Your Love. It's actually a funny story. We were at my friend's trailer. I'll give him a shout out right now, Brody. Thank you. And we were just sitting there listening to throwback tunes, and the song came on. And this was right at the beginning when I first started training. And he's like, you know what? This would make a really good entrance theme. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep it on the back burner. And then, sure enough, we're in training one night, and I turned to Lenny Lilac and I said, I got some song ideas. Can I play them for you? And I played the first couple. He's like, really, it's not you. It's not your character. And then I played Your Love by the Outfield, and he goes, that's the one.
That's amazing. And I love the energy that you bring in the ring as well. I mean, I
Well,
think that
thank
that
you.
caters to the charismatic portion of it because I've seen you a few times now in 365. I've seen you in GCW, like Great Canadian Wrestling, not Game Changer.
Yeah, maybe one day.
I can't help but notice how much the crowd gets behind you and how much you feed off of that energy. Have you always wanted to be that kind of like resilient face that people get behind? Like, is that who you wanted to portray, or did this kind of happen over the course of time and you weren't really quite sure where you wanted to take it?
Coming into it, I didn't know how, like, I had a feeling that especially being Guelph, like my hometown, right? Like 365 is like my primary wrestling. Like I wrestle there every month. We have shows coming up in the summer as well, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I didn't know how it was going to go because I didn't know if I was going to get over with the fans. I didn't know if they were going to boo me. I didn't know if they were going to like the song. There were so many thoughts running through my head. And yeah, going back to your question, I'd say, yeah, I've always wanted to be that John Cena hero type, like, a wrestler that the fans can get behind, cheer on. But who knows, maybe down the road, I get sick of playing the good guy and we'll maybe have to flip to the other side. But we'll have to wait and see about that.
So I do want to ask you about career highlights. Even though it's been a short career, I'm sure there's been a lot that you've accomplished. Before we get to any that you have in mind, though, I want to ask about a specific one. So for those
Yep.
don't know, you are a champion at 365. I would say you are the champion.
The 365 grand champion.
There you go. So I think this question comes more from also that fandom, that dreaming of it as you are just watching and things like that. How did it feel the first time you got to lift gold? Was there a feeling of elation, of validation? Not everybody that dreams of being a wrestler can do it, and then even fewer can actually say that they are a champion. How did it feel to win a title?
It felt, at the time in my life too, like in the middle of all this, like right around that time, I was going through a lot with family. My grandmother, she recently passed away kind of at the beginning stages of my career. I lost my aunt as well. So I really wish they could have been here to see this, but I know at the end of the day, they're up above watching over me each and every day. But just watching my idols grow up and seeing them hold up those titles and just thinking, you know what, maybe there is a chance one day I will be able to hold a championship belt for myself. And, Lenny and I had this big feud going into it, and a lot of fans had their doubts. And I even had my doubts because I'm like, am I going to be good enough? Can I beat one of the very best of all time? And then to actually, after that match, the crowd, like the pop it was, again, a big blur. I don't remember a lot of it. And then to actually be handed the championship and just to feel the weight of it. And I'm like, you know what? The weight of the company is now in my hands. And I take great pride in that each and every match. But yeah, definitely very surreal. And I never, ever would have expected to call myself a champion.
That's absolutely amazing because you grew up watching this company too. So there
Yeah,
was probably days where you were in the audience seeing that belt change hands and never would have thought that one day that will change hands to you.
no, but here we are.
Now back to what I was originally starting with, your personal highlights. They don't have to be the best, but even just maybe memorable or milestone matches that you had, chance encounters with any other performers, or even fan interactions that meant so much to you that you still carry them with you to this day.
I definitely have a couple that pop off the top of my head. The first match is my Royal City Street fight with Easy Eric Kearney. And that was the first match where I was very like I'm always nervous before I go through the curtain. And they say if you don't get those butterflies anymore, then you might as well just quit the business because they're always there. But that was the first time. And sorry, I got to correct myself. It was not the Royal City Street fight. That was the third match of our saga. We're gonna go back to the first one. So the first match I was pretty nervous for was actually for the title. It was for the 365 Global Championship in Guelph. I believe that was February of 2024. So just under a year of me debuting for the company. And I was just thinking, this is a guy I've watched since I was 8 years old. And now I'm 26 and I'm going to be fighting him. And again, the fan support, family, friends, they were all there. Came up a little bit short, but that was definitely a career highlight for me. The Royal City Street fight that I also had with Easy was definitely a big highlight. Me and Lenny Lilac, we went a 3-match series. That was October of 2024, and that was for the Grand Championship. Defeated him in October, and then a month later we went to November. Got a cheap, dirty win. He took the belt back, and then November to end the year, I came back and we had a brass knuckles on a pole match, and I got my baby back. So those are definitely fan interactions. We'll get to that. Obviously, the kids. It's I like to be that role model, that superhero for the kids because I was that kid back in the day. So I know exactly how it feels when they're looking up at the ring and they see these larger than life characters. I'm a good person, right? And I like to give back as much as I can. There's sometimes, going to the crowd, like me and Super K, definitely. We've had our fair share of brawling around the ring. The older audience, 19 plus, hand me a beer. Okay, pop right above the head, and just to see the beer splatter and all the young university kids and all of them stand up and they're screaming their heads off. It's such a cool, it's nothing's cooler than professional wrestling.
No, absolutely. What's next? Like, where would you like to see yourself perform next, whether that be in a city or town or a specific company that you'd like to hit, or even just somebody that you would like to, get in the ring with that you haven't had a chance to square up with yet?
It's a really tough one. So obviously, like this year, I've started to expand a bit more. Obviously, GCW, wrestled for Norfolk County Wrestling as well. Looking to reach out to a couple more promotions. Just have to do my research first. There's a lot of options. Obviously, Canada is definitely expanding right now with professional wrestling, and I believe the eyes are directly on Canada. Someone who I'd like to work in the ring, who I haven't got to work yet. You know what? There's some guys out in BC because 365 runs in Ontario and they also run in BC. And there's a lot of names out there who I'd like to wrestle. I actually got the opportunity to work with Judas Icarus as well, TNA superstar. I got to have a match with him and Eric in a triple threat. But I'd say Maxwell Benson out in BC. He wrestles for the 365 BC promotion and a bunch of other promotions out there. I'd like to one day hopefully share the ring with him. Oh, you know what? Another name I'd like to work is Mark Wheeler. Mark Wheeler is a very big name across Ontario and Canada. So if there's ever the opportunity, I would definitely like to step in the ring with him.
He's got one of the best drop kicks in the business.
He does.
I don't know if you have had a chance to square up with Mikey Jenkins, but I would love to see that match too, because you guys both have this like energy and flair for the business that I think that you guys would just do some wonderful business together.
I have heard a little bit of Mikey Jenkins. Definitely be a fun one.
What about dream opponents, right? Like you don't have to justify it. You don't have to base it in reality. Who are just some of the dream opponents that are still lacing up their boots? I try to stay away from historical just because that opens up way too much. That if you could wrestle them, however it happened, who would they be?
Dream opponents. I mentioned him earlier, Kevin Owens. I know he's been dealing with some stuff right now, and a lot of fans thought it was BS, but I guess it is real. So speedy recovery if he ever sees this. But he would definitely be one of them. Another dream opponent would be Josh Alexander. Definitely, he's one hell of a tank. He's the face of Canada. If you ask me, he's definitely up there with the best.
Outside of the ring, you get a chance to step away, recharge the batteries. What kind of hobbies and interests do you have?
I like to go to the trailer. My buddy's got a trailer up in Sauble Beach, so I like to go up there at least once or twice a summer. Still play the odd slow pitch here. I got a slow pitch tournament coming up in June, so I'll be doing that. And other than that, just hanging out with friends and family, enjoying life. Of course, enjoying a couple beverages here and there. But yeah, like there's not. If I'm not wrestling, I'm usually watching wrestling. So I'd say studying wrestling for sure is a big hobby of mine. Other than work, I live a very busy lifestyle, so it's sometimes hard to have hobbies, but that's probably about it.
So I like to ask everybody this question, and it's not always the easiest, and that's understandable. Okay. But if you had an opportunity to go back and talk to a younger version of yourself who was just debating getting into the wrestling industry, what piece of advice would you give yourself that could possibly also translate to somebody else who's currently on the fence about it?
I definitely say I go back and tell myself to get in way better shape because obviously I am a bigger guy. Cardio is a big factor in professional wrestling, and anyone who doesn't agree with that, step in the ring and start running those ropes because it catches up to you very quick, especially in a match and you're only 5 minutes in and you have to go 20 to 25 minutes. You're kind of kicking your butt about that. So I'd say for sure cardio is a big one. Like get yourself in shape and stay in shape.
Okay, yeah, and I'm sure that's a valuable lesson because like I said, I've seen you move in the ring and it is very impressive.
Well, thank you very much.
Definitely been putting in the work.
Yes.
Before we sign out, can I just get you to let everybody know once again who you are and maybe where they can follow you online if they want to see what you got coming up next?
So my name's Code Blue CJ Graham. I am the current reigning and defending 365 Grand Champion. And you can follow me on Instagram at CJ Graham. And you can find me on Facebook, Cody Jacob Graham. And yeah, I believe that's about it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.